Positiva recebida para a comunidade de Aruba, Fundação Antidroga Aruba lança sua de 5 temporadas de documentário baseado na vida real. Nessa série de documentário aqui, lobo recebi uma variação de história real de pessoas que chegam a sofrer de uma adicção e a reabilitar. Pessoas que lutam com enfermidades de saúde mental por motivo de diferentes traumas. Lobo compreender para que é importante para buscar ajuda no tempo ou que sente uma desbalance com saúde mental, ansiedade e depressão. Lobo escuta com efeito de manejar boa de influência de álcool tem consequência para um inocente ribe carretera de Aruba. 39 anos passados, FADA aguardo fundar com o propósito para prevenir o uso de abuso de droga e álcool e outro tópico de adicção arriba nos islas. Recentemente, FADA a start com um reto novo onde nos brinda prevenção arriba e cuidado de saúde mental. O propósito do documentário está para a comunidade na altura de origem, fator entre outros problemas social, desbalance de família, abuso sexual, emocional e físico, trauma, mal amistade que por conduzir com uma pessoa que toma a decisão para fazer uso de uma substância legal ou ilegal. Saúde mental de uma pessoa depende, entre outros, arriba com este guardo cuidar e escutar durante sua infância. Hobby best nos nota mira é fruto de saque de viaja, que há e consequências por afetar a vida de um ser humano. É importante para reconhecer e aceitar que o uso de substância legal ou ilegal por conduzir a problema com saúde mental e problema com saúde mental por riba na uso de droga ou álcool. De documentário, comunidade de Aruba lo presencia história com autorização de cada uma pessoa que está disposto para contar na realidade. Cada história, seu conteúdo é diferente, remarcável está que toda história aqui tem efeito arriba a saúde mental. Não somente de a pessoa que está passando de situação, mas também de não ser querida. A adicção não conhece discriminação e não conhece nem color, nem raça, nem religião, nem sexo. A adicção ou enfermidade de saúde mental por bate na porta de qualquer ser humano.
Hobby viaja, nos nota para quieto e te pensa de como persona lo hace uso de uma substância, se legal ou ilegal. Hobby fácil, uma persona por guardo juzgar por motivo de adicção. Da seguinte história que a comunidade lo vai presenciar, a persona aqui lo conta com adicção abate na sua porta. Ela elabora com uma idade jovem e dor de mal amistad ela experimentar com diferentes tipos de substância. Diferentes fatores há um rol em sua vida, onde a ausência de data, soledade e trauma de niñez estava motivo para depender de substância para deal com isso aqui. Não está fácil para recuperar fora da garra de adicção, mas no momento que aceitar a adicção e sabe como quer sair fora de ela, sabe também como está logrando.
Bom dia. My name is Patrick Richard Priest. I was born Aruba 1969, the 24th of May. I live in San Nicolas, and this is the longest time that I'm living in Aruba, on Aruba. I lived in St. Martin, Holland, New York, England, so you can say I was all over. But now since 2005, I'm back in Aruba, and I'm doing my best to enjoy Aruba, my culture. And it's not easy and it's not hard, but it's what's that word? It's tough. It's tough. As being who I am, it's very tough. And what else about me? I'm a French cook by my job ethics, and I love cooking, I love entertaining, but the best part of me is I'm a jolly person when I'm ready to be jolly, and I'm a very serious, solemn person. That's it about me. A free single, disengaged, no children, live alone, San Nicolas, and that's about it about me. I have not much family in Aruba. I have 2 aunts, a lot of outside family, cousins, but I don't know who they are. They don't know me. And I try to live as peaceful as I can be. That's it about me. Okay, my addiction started for me very young. it started, you can say, in Aruba, but I guess if I can remember clearly, I was about 13, 14 years younger, maybe 12. Someplace around there I started with the basic stuff, the marijuana and drinking, and I never thought it would have lead me through my life as I reach here today to tell my story, where it all started and why. Because for me it's a lot. As being a person, a man from the Caribbean, and especially in Aruba, it's not so easy to live the authentic you. It's always your family, the friends, the preacher, the school teachers, because everybody know everybody. The minister, I think, in San Nicolas, everybody know everybody. So my life was not that easy for being me, who I am. But yeah, I'm here today. My childhood life was good in its own way. I was raised by my grandmothers, I would say. My mother was there, but she left to St. Martin just after I was born, 1963 or no, 63, 74, something. She went to St. Martin, so I stayed with my brother back in Aruba by my grandparents on my mother's side, and that was okay. I was missing my mother, missing my father, and my father and mother divorced when I was a child. So I can't tell you much about that life with father, because I never had a father in my life. My father, I had a lot of men in my life, but not that important besides my uncles and aunts on mother's side. And otherwise to that, born in Aruba, grew up in Aruba till when I was about 5, 6 years. Then my mother sent for us to go to St. Martin, and there's where my schooling started. I can remember going to school and living with my mother. And when I reached and my brother reached to St. Martin, my mother was pregnant and she had a new boyfriend or whatever you want to call it, and she was pregnant, and then she made my sister was born, and then life is life. Living with your mother, with her life and her problems. But that time I did not have any problem. I just lived as a child. And I can say it wasn't hard, but it was different. Because everybody had their mother and father, and we was only with my mother. And I can say my mother did her best. Up to now, she did her best. Because people say, my family say, you're just like your mother. And in a way, it's true. What I don't want to deal with, I just don't deal with. And later on in my life, I found out, if I don't want to deal with something, either I drink, I go to parties, I dance, and smoke weed. That I can remember about my infancy, my childhood days. Then again, I would have to say, I take over like my mother. Whatever I did, I had to prove that I am not the best, but I can deal with it. And watching other children having their mother, their father, I didn't deal with it. I just did my thing and try to make my mother happy. But my mother is one of those women back in those days. Like, she's the mother, she's the man, and the woman, father and mother. And that was pressure, because we always, can't speak for my brother, cannot speak for my sister, it always said, you have to be the best. Growing up without a father, and to tell you the truth, I have two ways of looking at it. I got the best of two worlds. I was brought up by my mother, and I had uncles and grandfathers there, but a man in the house to how must I say, to show me I am a man, but to do boy things. Yes, I play baseball, I play all of those sports that young people do, but I was not good in sports. Certain sports I was not good at, but I never had a male role in my life with my mother to show me, Patrick, this is how you do this, and this is how a boy do this, which my mother did. She teach us how to be a boy and teach my sister how to be a girl. But my mother, I think, had a hard time, not hard, but it was a test to bring up two boys as men. And my mother, she did what she knew, but she was always working. I had maids. So if my mother is in school and we finish school, we come home, I always had a maid there. I didn't have no men. I had women teaching us how to clean house, how to cook. I had that. So I never got in my home, a man like most, I guess, children, this is what a man does. Because my mother made us do everything. Wash clothes, cook. I learned to cook from a 6 years old, 6, 7, I learned to cook. And how to clean house and those things. So it's not a negative thing, but as I look back at my life, those were my influences to be what I am today. She was in my life when I was a boy, but she was not there because she lives in Aruba and I was living in St. Martin. So my mother sent me back to Aruba around 12, 13. And from that age, I can say I knew who I was. I knew I was gay. But back in those days, in my days, with my family, that was a big taboo. You hide, you be a man, act like a man, go outside, play with the boys. I was never into outside playing with boys. In Aruba, I reached Aruba, and then my grandma got me into church. And I was a Catholic. It was cool, because in church these things don't happen, but just there in church is where my gay life really, really started. Because all these boys and men and life continued, and then I was introduced. She said, besides church and school, you need a distraction. So I joined the YMCA. And then I learned, for me, Patrick Richard Priest, what is my sports. My sport was Turner, that was gymnastics, and volleyball, and roller skating, because this is around the 80s now, so roller skating was in. So I was the best roller skater in my barrio back then. And I used that to my advantage in my childish way, that I go to school, I come home, I go to church, a prayer meeting, or whatever they had with the church, and after that is the YMCA. But my grandmother and father's side, at 8 o'clock you have to be home, because tomorrow is school. So everything I did was between church and YMCA and going home. That was my time for me. Not that I abused of it, I keep to the rules, but a lot of things can happen in our time. So I use that to my advantage, and how must I put this now? I believe, looking back, my grandmother knew, but they are from old school. So my gayness, that was never taught. You need to pray, you need to go to church. So I was into that, and I almost believed it, because at a certain time I wanted to be a priest. And I went to classes how to become a priest. But then in my mind, I was looking back at it, that was just to get out of the situation I was in with my grandmother. Not it was a terrible, no, it was a good time. My grandmother loved me. All my grandmothers, the family, loved me and take care of me. But I had a hidden agenda. I did not get time to explore and be who I wanted not to be, but to express who I am. I went back to St. Martin on a vacation, and then I found out my mother was getting married. That's her life, but it was all too much for me to deal with my grandmother, my mother getting married, my other family on mother's side in St. Martin. I said, you know what? I have to do something to save me. And in that time, when I went back to St. Martin, as I was living in Aruba, I had a lot of not gay friends, hideout queens. I say queens, but gays. They were all hideout and in the church, and all of these foolish, not foolish, just living their lives. But when I reached St. Martin around 15, can remember it was in June, July, and I had a friend, a gay friend, who came back from Holland, and he said, Patrick, the best place for you to be and be yourself is go to Holland. But I'm 15 years, I don't know nothing about life really, because I grew up around family and church and aunts and uncles. So I said in my mind, you know what, it sounds good, and I talked to him. I mean, I know what gay life is back then, but it wasn't a big open discussion. It was hideout, you had your boyfriend, whatever, you go, you drink. And when I was 15, more or less, I think, I had another friend who introduced me to marijuana. I mean, I was young, I did smoke, and not smoke like how I smoke now, but I tried it and the marijuana sticked. And in 15 years old, before I was 16, I decided in my own mind, I'm going to Holland. Now, I don't know where I was going to go with this information. I want to go to Holland. I'm too young. I mean, I know I had family in Holland, but really know them, no. And 16 was a year, age that I really found myself. And my uncle, sorry for the name, he was the first man in Holland of one, my family, my uncle. He took me to a gay bar. And I was like, my God, this is what it is? I was not frightened, but I felt I'm home. And we stayed there and we had coffee or tea, whatever was out. And he said, you know how to reach home? I said, yes, I do. He said, I'm going to leave you because I have to go home. I said, okay. And I stayed in the Cosmo bar and talking, because I realized now, looking back, no matter how you put it or you change it or turn it over and turn it under, a gay life is a very small life. Everyone knows, everyone. In the sense that you know, but if I'm in a room and they have one gay person next to me, I would feel this person is gay. That's most gay have, that they can feel somebody else in here is gay, bisexual, no matter what you want to put it, we know. And that's how I started. And there, not the same day, a month or something, then I started back with experimenting with drugs. And now I'm drinking alcohol and doing poppers and doing the drugs. And then I was introduced to, I fall in a group of people using heroin and cocaine. And I said, oh, what is going to say and what I think about it. But while I was doing all of this BS, I know in my mind someplace, Patrick, you could handle it. You come from Aruba and St. Martin, you had a hard life, you could handle it. And I got introduced to it, I started using it. Little to be known that heroin and cocaine would be my choice of drugs. That I was abused as a child, as a boy. And I cannot say who it was, but they know, my mother and everybody know, I told them, but they did not believe me. And I said, this is what I have to deal with now. And I guess looking back, that's why some people say you're very sexual, but I am not sexual. I just like playing around sex. In the sense as most gay men do, I go to the bar, I drink, I carry on, have a good time, but I am, how will I say that? I am teasing them, just to tell them, hell no, not you, not today, not never. And there's where my downfall starts, with the heroin and cocaine. Okay, the heroin and the cocaine, I like to fool myself and say it started out as a joke. But everything in life happens for a reason. And I met this guy, became my best friend back in those days. He introduced me to the heroin and the cocaine. And I remember the first time I did cocaine was in Gay Palace. And I used it and it was good, but I was really out of it because I was not there present. My body is there, but my mind was someplace else. Like, how did I get here? Till I met my other friend, he died, two of them died, and he introduced me to heroin. I said, Patrick, watch what the frig you're doing, because this is serious shit. And while I'm doing all this drug, the cocaine, did not know, my boyfriend then did not know how deep I was in it, because he was working, I was working, so we was not really going out together. And introduced me to heroin, and I know from on the scene was more or less on the edge. I knew he do drugs, but what kind of drugs he did, I didn't know. But when he introduced me to this heroin, I said, Patrick, you do it or you don't do it, because this is gonna have consequences. And I remember I did it in my home with the needle, the injection. He said, Patrick, take it easy, just relax, it's gonna work. And the first time I did heroin, that was the best high I ever had in my life. Not the cocaine, not the alcohol. Heroin took me on the next level, that I was invincible. And I believed it from that day on, that Patrick, you're hot, and you could do what you want and get what you want. But then I started getting, I'm needing this heroin and cocaine to function normal, to study. I never had a problem before. And then back then, the school I was going to, you could go stagiaire in New York, you could go stagiaire in England, London, you could go stagiaire Paris, and I did all of that. 4 months here, 4 months there, and it was good, but then drugs was taking over. Alcohol was taking over. And I needed those two to function and to survive, to fit in. And I did it. And I paid hard prices and consequences doing that. I got my diploma, I was happy. I was not really happy looking back. I was just living the best life I knew how. And the drugs started, the heroin started to take over, and I didn't do much cocaine no more. I just heroin, about 4 times a day. Not big amounts, but small. And just being happy. Think I was happy. It looked happy because did his thing, I did my thing. I got introduced to being in an open relationship. So you do you and I'm gonna do me and we're all gonna be happy. And drugs involved. But was never a really down to earth hardcore drug user. He just do it when he go to the sauna or we go to Gay Palace, he wants to get a high and trip. He did that, but I was getting more deeper and deeper into it, depending on it and believing without that, I don't know who I am. My appearance was always glamour. I always look at my best. I may be high like a bitch, but I'm looking good. And that was in the 80s, you look good. And then I noticed I start forgetting, and the cooking wasn't in the cooking, and I got my diploma, but it didn't interest me anymore. What was interesting to me was scoring and getting high and going out and carrying on in the gay clubs and in the sauna and traveling. At that time again, I was in a group of friends that were much older than me, and have experience in this life, this gay life back in the 80s. So every weekend I'm in Paris. I was staying in the hotels and staying with my friends and living the life. And as I told you, it started to get to me because now I'm taking 5 times a day heroin to cope and to manage and try to look normal. And looking back at certain pictures, yes, you look fabulous, you look good, but you're not there. My eyes, I lost a lot of weight in those days. In the 80s, you lose weight, you're looking good. But I was not looking good, I was looking tired. Yes, and the makeup hide a lot of and then in those days, everywhere, body wearing contact lenses and changing the color of your eyes and fabulous, you have money. Going out in Paris in those days, that was a lot of money, 500 francs, and in Holland, in Rotterdam, when I go out, I'm going out with like 600 guilders. That's a lot of money to be just drugs and drinking and entertaining. And my uncle came and told me, Patrick, you're out of order. You was not raised that way and you need help. And one of those things, I said, look at where I'm living. Look at me. How can you tell me this is not life? He said, you're not right. That's not the way you was raised. You're living like a wild man. And he came back a couple times and then came back. And he started getting on my case too. It's too much drugs. And then he said, you know what? I think it's best for you to go, that time it was existing, to a gay rehab. I couldn't care less. He have money, I have money, because I used to do little small jobs, the drag queen, and I make a lot of money doing drag queen back then. So I had money, so I could go to this rehab, and the rehab was for like 3 months. Okay, I said to him, in my mind, I didn't know kicking drugs was so hard. I went, I said, this is going to be our next party again. Meet new men, meet new people, and carry on. But it was a different story there. You have to detox. I detox for like 2 weeks. The heroin coming out, the alcohol coming out, the cocaine coming out. And then I realized, someplace, I don't know why, Patrick, this is going to be your downfall. And came to visit me, and he put it on the line. It's, you either try to get clean or I'm leaving you. And back then I was like, leaving me? I said, blessed man you ever get, you're ever gonna get. And he's sick with cancer, so he wasn't the I knew he was losing weight, he was tired a lot. And I said, I'm coming back home. But I did the 3 months rehab. It worked in a way, but I was not really into rehab. I was just there to make everybody happy and to continue my life. But when I got back home with that was a different reality start hitting home. Because he's losing weight, he's not working much no more, working from home. And that also is getting on my nerve. Child, why don't you go visit your family, go visit? No, he was so sick he couldn't walk. He was a walker, a rollator. And I started back on the heroin and cocaine. And that's now to fit in. Not to be in, but now it's just to be part of something. And that again was the next downfall. Because you're fooling yourself. I was then looking back, fooling myself that this brings joy, it makes you happy. It does not make, for a while it makes you happy. The first 5-6 hours you're happy because you're being a you think you're cute, but you're not cute. But I didn't know, I know more or less what I have to do. But then I met our next, now, but Holland is Holland, everybody is more or less gay back then. So I met, what his name was? I met in Kerware, but he was a social worker for gays who is experiencing alcohol and drug addiction. So I went back to this place. What's the name of that place now? Not Lake of this Hills. Anyway, it was a center. I went there. The house stayed standing. I leave friends in the house. And I went and tried to get myself clean. And I did. I stayed there for a year and 6 months. But then again, it was getting clean and the party still going on. Still going on. I did get clean with a lot of things. And then, coming up, my life when I was in Aruba, St. Martin, the abuse, the loneliness, the missing a father figure, and then up to then I was okay. My family was okay, but then I started to realize with the therapy that my mother have a big influence on who I am, what I am, and what I'm gonna do. And I said, here is where I want to come back. I don't want to go Simon, I don't want to go nowhere but Aruba. I came back Aruba 2005, the 13th of September. But then again, it's not the life what I know back in Holland. It's more quiet. You have to be serious, get a job, and hide my gayness. Hide who I am. Then again, going out in San Nicolas, you start to meet people and the drugs start again. Got involved, but not wrong people, but it was not a place for me. And I got involved then back in the circuit of drugs. My aunt said you have to go to the hospital in San Nicolas and ask a question. She dropped me, I think she dropped me, can't remember. But there I meet Sharon. I had a long conversation with Sharon. And Sharon is still deep in my heart. Thanks for her, I am where I am today. And she got me involved with Centro Colorado. But then, Centro Colorado, I had to go in. The time period, they did not, I just went in. And someplace in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, Patrick, this is time for you to get together. I got my cooking diploma. I have experience cooking. And that was a different story for me. This is serious. Because they are very friendly, they are loving, but they're not ramping, they're not joking. This is your life. Well, all the things I got into it, and most people would think addiction is you are addict to one thing, but there again, Central Colorado, Sharon, Gadi, all of them, like, you have a lot of addictions that yourself don't know. Addiction is only drugs and alcohol. She said, no, you have addiction of spending money. You have addiction of looking good. You have addiction of fooling people, pretending something that you're not. Maybe you are, but you're carrying it too extreme. So there where it started, and with all that up there, no drugs, but now I start smoking cigarettes more. So that's the next addiction upon addiction upon addiction. And I'll never forget the day God tell me, you know what you is? You are a narcissist. You're so loving yourself that you'll kill yourself before you leave anybody else love you. In a way, she's right, but that's what I know about me. And my aunt, everybody was there, and I did that. I went to the rehab. Then I picked up other addiction. Now the addiction become alcohol. Because to buy heroin in Aruba, it costs money. 600 guilders for just a couple of shots. I came back with money from Holland, and in a couple of years that was finished, because you're partying, you're doing this. And I did that. I went to Central twice. The first time was a fluke. The second time I get, Patrick, get your shit together. Then my aunt on my case, my mother on my case. That time my grandmother was alive on my case. And then I can't function on the job. But then again, I got a job. I have the best job in the world. I'm in the kitchen, I'm a bartender, so I have access to enough alcohol. So there's where the alcohol started again. And up to this day, I'm still fighting that battle with alcohol. But now I know how far and what triggers it. I did that, and they shaped me. And the next thing what happened to me, about 4 years ago in the Central, going to work in the morning, 5 o'clock, because this time I'm working in San Nicolas. And I'm going to work and I got robbed. They beat me up, they shoot me. I have a bullet in my back still. In a hospital for like a year or like that. And there is more or less, I got serious about addiction. I was always serious, but now I know what triggers me and what people to be around. And what I'm gonna say is, in Aruba and wherever, people think addiction is always drugs. We all have our addictions. Some people could deal with it better than others, but in my case, I know when to do what I do. I don't do heroin no more. But if I wake up, for instance, tomorrow and I say, I feel like drinking a couple of beers, I'm gonna do it. But I know the consequences and how far to go. I believe that I am a social person with a lot of issues within myself. But today I am not working no more, looking for a job. Anybody who have a job, I need a job, cooking. And I know my limits. I cannot say that I'm okay, I'm happy. I'm just living. Trying to fit the puzzle together. Because yes, I cannot work no more because the bullet in my back. But being home and I wish I could say, no. How much times you gonna clean your house? Foolishness. And I'm not social no more. I'm in the house by myself with the TV or the phone. And today I know that it's not a battle to fight for me on my own. I need my aunt, I need you all, I need Central Colorado. I need to talk about my experience and cliche, and I'm talking to you all, trying to tell people that you just don't fall in alcohol, addiction. There's different levels of getting into it. And it depends how you treat your family, your brother, your sister, your neighbor. It always, like what Daddy said, Gadi and Sharon, it all begins in loving and understanding the person. And I'm kind of happy today. Not happy, but okay, I'm okay. Nederlandse Caribische gebied. We all grew up with this prestige and be better than them. No, it begins at home, and try accepting and understanding somebody who's going through difficulty with addiction, because it's not only alcohol and drugs, they have a lot of addictions, and try to understand and let that person, like me, explain the story how they got there. Because nobody don't just wake up one day and say, oh, today I'm going to use drugs or marijuana. No, it's a process. And we have to, for me, I believe, we have to give people the space to be who they want to be, except for the addiction. If you want to be a lesbian, okay, you know the consequences. You want to be gay, you know the consequences. You want to live in Holland, do you know the consequences? But you have to get Again, I see it a lot in San Nicolas. Everything is the church. No, God don't have all the answers for you. Find your own answers that work for you. And God is a part of life. I used to be a Catholic, but now I as a Buddhist, that works for me. It gives me peace and leave everybody be what they want to be without judging. And we all have to pass through life. And just, for people like me, try your best, just be better, get out of it. Because it's not carrying you nowhere. Yes, it's fun. And it's a good time drinking and doing drugs. And after tomorrow, merci.
De episodio aqui, nós vamos enfocar um pouco mais sobre a saúde mental. Boa chega de pensar quão difícil é para abrir e para com pessoa ribalo que você sente, ou ora você sente triste sem motivo. Boa chega de pensar quão difícil é para explicar a família ou amigo não, e sentimento pisar que você carga dentro do pecho sem por compreender motivo. Quão difícil é para você compreender ora você um ataque de pânico que te aparece sem nenhuma notificação. Quão difícil é e quanto medo te cria ora você sentir que o mundo te cai em outro e tem um peso enorme arriba dos shoulders. Hopi vez, essa aqui é o que desbalance de saúde mental te traz com ele. Você sentir que vive com um monstro que você não conhece. Jamie, lo vai contar de sua história um pouco mais de seu desbalance com a saúde mental tem com ele. Entre outros, high functioning anxiety, uma condição que te põe com gente não sabe que está funcionando boa pressão de ansiedade e te sigue funcionando normal, tem momento que te chega a ponto de cair em outro. Jamie lo conta também parte de sua infância que causa trauma enorme de como pessoa e lo explica com a ajuda sumés de situação aqui por meio de entregar e aceitar que tem desbalance com saúde mental. A batalha de saúde mental não está fácil e hopi vez não tem cura, pero se tem mudança e guia como para controlar e viva uma vida mais balançada.
Inanta onde com anxiety não a começar. Se tata achme mi prome anxiety mi episodes na mi taquicardia, mi tata soda, mi tata saturni stuff e al fim mi te chega na CP of exam mi te fail.
Depois de uma outra reação positiva recebida para a comunidade de Aruba, a Fundação Antidroga Aruba lança sua 5 temporada de documentário baseada na vida real. Nessa série de documentários aqui, lobo recebeu uma variação de história real de pessoas que chegam a sofrer de uma adicção e a reabilitar. Pessoas que lutam com enfermidades de saúde mental por motivo de diferentes traumas. Lobo compreender para que é importante para buscar ajuda no tempo, ora que sente um desbalance com saúde mental, ansiedade e depressão. Lobo escuta com efeito de manejar boa de influência de álcool tem consequência para inocente ribe carretera de Aruba. 39 anos passados, FADA aguardo fundar com o propósito para prevenir o uso de abuso de droga e álcool e outro tópico de adicção arriba nos islas. Recentemente, FADA a start com um reto novo onde nos brinda prevenção arriba e cuidado de saúde mental. O propósito do documentário está para a comunidade na altura de origem, factor entre outros problemas social, desbalance de família, abuso sexual, emocional e físico, trauma, mal amistade que por conduzir com uma pessoa que toma a decisão para fazer uso de uma substância legal ou ilegal. Saúde mental de uma pessoa depende, entre outros, arriba com esta guarda cuidar e escutar durante sua infância. Hopi vez nos nota mira é fruto de saque de viaja, que há e consequência por afetar a vida de um ser humano. É importante para reconhecer e aceitar que o uso de substância legal ou ilegal por conduzir a problema com saúde mental e problema com saúde mental por riba na uso de droga ou álcool. De documentário, comunidade Aruba lo presencia história com autorização de cada uma pessoa que está disposto para contar na realidade. Cada história, seu conteúdo é diferente. Remarcável tá, cultura e história não aqui tem efeito arriba a saúde mental. Não somente de a pessoa que está passando de situação, mas também de não ser querida. A adicção não conhece discriminação e não conhece nem color, nem raça, nem religião, nem sexo. A adicção é uma enfermidade de saúde mental por bate na